My name is Nazia. I am a middle-class girl living in a small town. I spent my entire life yearning for even the smallest things. That is why when I grew up, I told my mother very clearly, Amma, I will not marry into a poor family. You must send me off to a wealthy household. Hearing my words, Amma looked surprised. She said, how can someone from a rich family ever come to us? We don't even socialize with such people, let alone receive a marriage proposal from them. Hearing her, I fell into deep thought. She was right. Without any connections, how could we even dream of reaching such families? Still, I told Amma, if that's the case, then I want to work. If I go out, meet more people, maybe someday I'll come across a good, wealthy man. Amma grew angry when she heard this. She scolded me. Shame on you, Fazila. You are a girl. How can you talk like that? We didn't educate you so you could wander office to office, like chasing after men. Her words made me even angrier. Amma, what do you want? That I spend my whole life suffocating inside these four walls? You know very well that none of the proposals coming for me are even worthy. I am young and beautiful. I can find a good and rich man for myself. Just give me permission to work. After much arguing, I finally made such a scene that Amma unwillingly agreed to let me work. Holding my degree, I wandered the streets for several days looking for a job. Eventually, I was hired by an office. I got a job as a secretary. My boss, Akram, was a very busy man who always needed a secretary by his side. He barely had any free time, and it was my job to manage his meetings and arrange his schedule. I would handle his files and attend every meeting with him. Slowly, most of my time began to pass working alongside Mr. Akram. A month passed quickly. During that time, I met many people, but none of them were wealthy except my boss. However, the thought of marrying him never even crossed my mind. He was a millionaire, after all. Why would he ever consider someone like me? He lacked neither wealth nor marriage proposals. I stayed focused on my work and instead kept searching among other men at the office. Then one day, something unexpected happened. My boss himself proposed to me. I was completely shocked. I stared at him in disbelief. He smiled warmly and said, "You are a very good girl. You never tried to bother me or trap me like other girls. I feel like you're exactly the kind of decent girl I have been looking for." Hearing his words, I felt both surprised and amused at his simple honesty. After some hesitation, I accepted his proposal. Later, he confessed that his family would never agree to our marriage. "We are extremely wealthy," he said. "I don't have parents, but my elder brother and sister-in-law want me to marry someone of their choice, but I have decided that I want to marry you. I will personally bring the proposal to your home and marry you first. Only after our nikah will I inform my family about you." I was so happy just thinking about marrying Akram that I didn't even object to his plan. All I cared about was that finally, my dream of marrying a rich man was coming true. When Akram finally brought the marriage proposal to my house, my mother objected strongly. She was upset that none of his family members had come along with him, but somehow I managed to convince her, telling her that he had no parents and maybe his elder sister-in-law was not a very good person. Hearing this, my mother fell silent. A week later, Akram and I had a simple nikah ceremony. He then took me to his home. It wasn't just a house. It was a grand mansion. The moment I stepped inside, I felt as if my entire life had changed. I truly believed that I was extremely lucky. I had barely entered when I saw a young, beautiful girl approaching from the opposite side. She looked about 25 years old, dressed in a modern, stylish outfit. She appeared extremely wealthy and carried herself with grace. My eyes couldn't help but settle on her. Deep inside, I began to wonder. Akram had told me only his elder brother and sister-in-law lived with him. Then who was this girl? Could she be Akram's sister? I had already seen Akram's elder brother Shehzad once before, so I was sure this girl wasn't his wife. Maybe she was Shehzad's daughter. As I stood there thinking, she came closer, scanning me from head to toe with a confused look. "Who are you and what are you doing here?" she demanded. I didn't know how to respond. I didn't even know who she was or what Akram had planned to tell his family about me. So I just stayed silent, staring at her nervously. She grew furious and snapped, "Are you mute or what? How dare you just walk into our house? Who are you?" Her harsh words made my face flush with embarrassment. I wanted to answer back, but for Akram's sake, I held my tongue. Just then, Akram entered. Seeing me standing frozen like a statue, he quickly came over. Looking at the girl politely, he said, "Bobby, this is my wife, Fazila. I've gotten married." The color drained from the girl's face as soon as she heard him, and my own heart skipped a beat. Bobby? How could this young girl be my sister-in-law? Akram's elder brother was a man between 55 and 60 years old. This girl was only around 25. The girl turned angrily to Akram and said, "Have you lost your mind, Akram? Who have you brought into this house? Who did you marry? You know very well that your brother had chosen Ramsha for you. We were about to take the proposal to her family." She was fuming with anger, speaking fast and furious, while I stood there quietly, observing everything. Akram replied calmly, "Bobby, I had already told you I didn't want to marry Ramsha, but you and Pai Sahib never listened to me. That's why I got married on my own, so you wouldn't send a proposal to Ramsha's house." He added firmly, "Fazila is now my wife, and I want to live my life with her. I want you to help convince Pai Sahib to accept Fazila and recognize our marriage. He loves you dearly. If you talk to him, he will surely listen." My husband was speaking so humbly, almost pleading, as if he were a small child speaking to an elder. It made me wonder again how young my husband looked compared to this so-called Bobby. Hearing him, the woman sighed and said, "Fine. If you are already married, I will speak to your brother. But tell this girl to quickly learn our ways because it's obvious you have brought home some poor girl." Her words were dripping with arrogance and disdain, and they made me feel even smaller, even more ashamed. In front of her, I truly felt inferior and unworthy. She threw one last scornful glance at me and then walked off toward her room without saying another word. Akram looked at me and smiled. "If Bobby has accepted you," he said, "then you can be sure that my brother will also agree soon. He listens to her every word because she takes great care of him and loves him very much." The way Akram explained it left me stunned. I stared at him and said, "Akram, this girl is barely my age, around 25. Is she really your elder sister-in-law? Your brother must be around 55. I thought she was your niece." Hearing me, Akram smiled and replied, "Just like me, my brother also had a love marriage. The only difference is that Bobby comes from a very wealthy family, while you come from a modest one. But don't worry, Bobby will make everything right. Just do whatever she tells you." Hearing this, I nodded my head in agreement. I knew I had to make a place for myself in this house. Destiny had finally given me a chance to change my life, and I wanted to make the most of it. If winning Bobby's heart meant serving her, I had no problem with that. Akram also told me that his brother was away in another city for a couple of days. Until he returned, I had time to earn Bobby's favor. Once his brother came back, Bobby herself would convince him to accept me. Later, Akram held my hand and took me to a large, luxurious room. He gently sat me down on a velvet bed, and slowly, all the dreams I had cherished in my heart started coming true. Akram, despite being a man in his 40s, showered me with so much love that I was overwhelmed. He truly loved me. That first night of our marriage, he poured out his affection on me, and I felt like my life had finally become easy and beautiful, but little did I know that this happiness was only going to last a few days. The next morning, when I woke up, my whole body ached. After taking a shower, I stood for a long time by the large window, gazing out at the garden. Then the thought came to me, why not step out of the room for a while? Akram was still sleeping, and I wanted to explore the house. As I stepped out, I was surprised to find Bobby in the kitchen, working alongside the servants. She was not just giving orders. She was doing most of the work herself. The servants simply followed her instructions while she hurriedly directed the cleaning of the house. Seeing her in the kitchen, I immediately walked toward her. I needed to win her heart and strengthen my place in this home. Watching her work harder than the servants astonished me even more. I realized how powerful her position was in the house. It became even clearer when, after a single phone call from Bobby, Akram himself got up from bed and came straight to the breakfast table. Before leaving my room, I had tried many times to wake Akram up, but he hadn't even stirred. Yet at Bobby's call, he rushed to her immediately. Whatever Bobby said, Akram followed without question. It amazed me how a 25-year-old girl had two older men completely under her control, and no matter how hard I tried to accept it, the truth unsettled me deeply. Days passed quickly, and 2 days later, my elder brother-in-law returned home. Upon seeing me, he showed clear displeasure. But Bobby must have said something to him, something that changed his mind, because within a short time, he fell silent and accepted me into the family. Akram later thanked Bobby profusely for helping us. He also advised me again to respect her deeply and obey her every instruction without hesitation. If it weren't for her, Akram said, my brother would have never accepted you as his sister-in-law. To make Akram happy, I started flattering Bobby. Even though sometimes I felt jealous of her, how she had the entire household wrapped around her little finger, I would remind myself that Akram loved and respected her deeply. And if I wanted to keep Akram happy, I needed to respect Bobby too. My 25-year-old sister-in-law was extremely sharp, quick, and skilled in managing the house. Before I even woke up each morning, she had already finished half of the housework and still appeared perfectly groomed and fresh. I never once saw her looking untidy. She always wore fine clothes, kept her hair loose and styled, and carried herself gracefully. She would personally take care of her husband, always fussing over him, ensuring he had everything he needed. Within just 10 days, I was shocked to see that a girl from such a wealthy background who had no shortage of anything would personally do even the smallest chores for her husband, despite having an army of servants at her disposal. Bobby even managed many of Akram's affairs. Especially at night, she would personally prepare milk mixed with dates for her husband, and seeing her dedication left me amazed. I had never imagined that rich women could be so hardworking at home. Because of Bobby's example, I too had to lend a hand in housework. Otherwise, I had initially thought that all the work would be left for the servants. But when I saw Bobby working so actively, I would feel embarrassed sitting idle. Akram would also encourage me to stay close to Bobby and help her, so I spent most of my time assisting her. Despite everything, life in this grand house was peaceful. At least I had found comfort and stability. One night, I went into the kitchen to fetch some milk for Akram. There I saw Bobby roasting and grinding chickpeas. Curious, I asked, Bobby, what are you doing? At first, she hesitated a little, then smiled and said, I'm grinding chickpeas. I'll mix them with dates and serve them in milk to your brother. I blinked in surprise and asked, Is everything all right? Is Pai Sahib unwell or is there some problem? Bobby laughed softly and said, Nothing like that. I just take extra care of him to make sure he doesn't become weak. You see, he's getting older now, but I want him to stay strong and healthy. Saying that, she quickly finished mixing the powder and dates into the milk and went off toward her room. After she left, I stood there, lost in thought. Could someone really work so hard for love? Was love truly so blind that a young, beautiful girl would devote herself to a man almost 30 years her senior? A girl like Bobby could have had no shortage of younger, handsome men running after her. Still lost in my thoughts, I picked up the milk for Akram and went back to our room. Seeing me looking distracted, Akram asked, What's wrong? You seem worried. I sat down beside him and said quietly, Akram, Bobby is so young. How did she ever agree to marry your brother? Hearing this, Akram's face darkened slightly. He frowned and said, What's wrong with my brother? So what if he's a bit older? Age doesn't matter when there's love. When you love someone, you don't think about years and numbers. Bobby didn't care about his age either. She married him because of his good heart, and look at how sincerely she fulfills her responsibilities toward him. Then Akram looked at me and added, I want you to do the same. Just like Bobby takes care of this house and everyone in it, I want you to understand your duties too. From now on, I want you to handle everything yourself and take care of me the same way. Hearing Akram's words made me frown inwardly. Every time, it seemed, he had to bring up Bobby's example, comparing me to her. It was starting to bother me. He expected me to become exactly like Bobby, doing everything perfectly like her, and I didn't like that pressure at all. But I didn't show my displeasure. Instead, I smiled sweetly at Akram, hiding my frustration inside. I decided I would try my best to do everything for Akram with my own hands, just to make him happy. 2 months into our marriage, my mother said something that made me think even more seriously about my future. She told me, if you become pregnant, Your position in that house will be secure forever. My mother kept insisting that I should think about getting pregnant as soon as possible. But what could I tell her? My 40-year-old husband was so deeply consumed by his business that he barely had any time for me. Just a few days after our marriage, Akram had launched a new project, and ever since, he had been incredibly busy. Every night, he would come home exhausted and immediately fall asleep. Meanwhile, from my brother-in-law and Bobby's room, I would often hear the sound of their conversations late into the night, and their lights would stay on much longer. Slowly, a realization dawned upon me. Maybe Bobby had been right all along. Even though my brother-in-law was 55 years old, he seemed more youthful and energetic than Akram. And it occurred to me that perhaps the secret was that special milk Bobby lovingly prepared for him every night. There had to be a reason behind all her efforts. The next night, when I went to the kitchen to get milk for Akram, my eyes fell on the container of powder that Bobby had ground. A thought struck me. What if I added that powder to Akram's milk too? Would he become just as strong and lively as his brother? Would my life become even better? Without thinking any further, I quickly opened the container, assuming it was just the chickpea powder Bobby used. I mixed it into Akram's milk, stirred it well, and quietly went back to my room. Without mentioning anything, I handed the glass of milk to Akram. Busy working on his laptop, he drank it absent-mindedly in one go and passed the empty glass back to me. I smiled to myself, deciding that from now on, I would give Akram this same milk every night, just like Bobby did for Bhai Sahib. Little did I know how dangerous that one glass was going to be. After giving Akram the milk, I lay down on the bed peacefully. These days, Akram would either work late into the night or fall asleep quickly because of his workload, so I didn't think much of it. In my heart, I was only dreaming about becoming pregnant soon. I thought if I managed to conceive quickly, my position in the house would become secure forever. I reflected on how much my life had changed. Who would have imagined that a simple middle-class girl like me would become the daughter-in-law of such a grand house? Even in my wildest dreams, I had never imagined living in such luxury. It was purely by fate that I had made it this far. I also realized that over these past 2 months, I had truly fallen in love with Akram. Bobby, too, wasn't a bad woman. She had worked tirelessly to manage the house and care for her aging husband, and I admired her for it. I promised myself that I would serve Akram with the same devotion, care for him, and give him nourishing milk every night to strengthen him, so that soon my arms would be full with the blessing of a child. Lost in these sweet thoughts, I drifted off to sleep. I didn't know how much time had passed when a strange sensation jolted me awake. It felt like Akram was leaning heavily over me. When I opened my eyes, I was horrified to see him looming above me, his eyes bloodshot and wild. Fear gripped me. Akram grabbed my throat roughly and rasped out, "What did you give me to drink?" My heart nearly stopped from fear. He was speaking with great difficulty, pausing between words as if it was taking every ounce of his strength. Terrified, I stammered, "Akram, what's happening? Are you okay?" But without answering, he suddenly collapsed onto the bed. To my horror, blood started coming out of his mouth. I screamed loudly, and hearing my cries, Bobby and Bhai Sahib rushed into the room. The moment they saw Akram's condition, Bhai Sahib shouted in shock, "He must have consumed some kind of poison." Hearing this, I felt the ground slip from under my feet. Then Bhai and Bobby quickly carried Akram into the car and rushed toward the hospital. I was with them, but fear gripped my heart the entire way. Akram lay unconscious with his head in my lap. When we reached the hospital, the doctor confirmed what Bhai had suspected. Akram had been poisoned. Treatment began immediately, and the doctors cleaned out the poison from his stomach, but the toxin was extremely dangerous, leaving his condition critical. I spent every moment praying for his recovery. Finally, after about 12 hours, Akram regained consciousness. The doctor informed us that the milk Akram had drunk had poison mixed into it. Upon hearing this, Bhai immediately called the police, and they arrested me right there, convinced that I was the one responsible. I screamed, pleaded, insisted that I had done nothing wrong, but no one listened. Within moments, I was sitting behind the cold iron bars of a jail cell, tears flowing from my eyes. Fate had played such a cruel game that I couldn't even understand what had happened. 2 long days passed. No one came to meet me. No one even tried to bail me out. After 2 days, Akram finally came to see me. The moment I saw him, I broke down crying and said, "Akram, please believe me, I didn't do anything." Akram looked at me with sadness and said, I want to believe you, but why was there poison in my milk? The glass was tested and poison was found. What did you mix into it? Sobbing, I told Akram, I didn't add anything harmful. I only mixed the chickpea powder, the same one Bobby gives Pai Sahib. I just wanted you to stay healthy and strong because you have been so busy with work. I thought it would help you, just like it helps Pai Sahib. Akram looked surprised hearing this. He asked, What powder does Bobby give Pai Sahib? I explained, She grinds yellow chickpeas into powder and mixes it with dates and milk before giving it to him. Hearing my explanation, Akram fell silent. He didn't say anything for a while. Just then, his elder brother appeared behind him and angrily said, Come, Akram, why are you sitting here with this woman? I told you from the beginning she married you for your money, and now she's even tried to kill you. Akram turned toward his brother and calmly asked, Bhai Sahib, do you drink milk every night? Bhai Sahib looked confused and replied, No, you know I hate milk. I've never liked drinking it. Akram turned back to me with a stern look and said, Now tell me, why are you lying? Hearing this, I felt like the ground had vanished beneath me. I stammered, I'm not lying. Bobby takes a glass of milk every night into the room. She herself told me she gives it to Bhai Sahib for strength. Akram and Bhai Sahib both grew quiet for a long moment, then left without saying anything else. The next day, Akram came back to see me. He said, There is no such powder found in the kitchen, and none of the servants know anything about it either. Please accept it. Say it was all your plan to poison me. My heart still loves you. If you confess, I will save you. Hearing his words, I shook my head firmly and replied, I truly love you, Akram. I swear, I did not do anything wrong. Akram sat there silently for a long time, tears rolling down his face. It was as if he never expected this from me. I kept crying and trying to convince him of my innocence. And then, somehow, at some unknown moment, Akram finally believed me. He withdrew the case and I was released from jail. When we returned home, we heard noises coming from Bobby's room. Akram quietly approached the door and overheard her speaking on the phone. She was saying, I've trapped that poor girl so well that she'll rot behind bars for the rest of her life. Soon, I'll arrange a grand wedding between Ramsha and Akram myself. I knew that one day, out of jealousy, that stupid girl would mix the powder into her husband's milk, thinking it was what I gave to my husband. That's why I laced the powder with poison beforehand. Now just watch, neither Akram nor the courts will forgive her. I'll bring Ramsha into this house as my chosen daughter-in-law. These two foolish brothers are so naive. Ramsha and I will rule this house. Hearing this, Akram stood there as if the sky had fallen on him. Just then, Pai Sahib also arrived and overheard everything. Akram told him everything, but Pai Sahib couldn't believe it at first. However, after investigating in his own way, he learned the truth. Bobby had indeed done everything exactly as I had said. Standing there, without a moment's hesitation, Pai Sahib divorced Bobby and threw her out of the house. It turned out that Bobby had never been from a rich family herself. All the wealth she flaunted came from Pai Sahib, and now she wanted to secure Ramsha's future by trapping Akram into marriage. To achieve that, she had plotted to get rid of me by poisoning Akram and blaming me for it. By the grace of Allah, Akram's life was saved, and her evil plan was exposed before it was too late. Both Akram and Pai Sahib apologized to me. Today, I am living a good and peaceful life with my husband. Pai Sahib has grown very quiet, heartbroken from what Bobby did. He had truly loved her. In her greed, Bobby ruined everything. Now she sits alone, bearing the shame of divorce, back at her parents' house. I not only care for Akram, but I also look after Pai Sahib. Very soon we plan to find a good, decent girl to rebuild his life and bring happiness back into this house. If any widow or divorced woman wishes to marry my elder brother-in-law, please let us know in the comments.